How's it going, everybody? My name's Warner Fields with Fields of Profit. I'm a mid-six-figure full-time Amazon seller, and today's video is actually going to be way different from the norm. I'm actually talking to my friend Anthony, who lives in a van. He did just over 6 figures on Amazon last year while traveling the country, living in a van. So I'm going to be talking with him about that process, but more specifically, I'm going to be chatting with him and helping him grow into online arbitrage. I know this is a problem a lot of you guys have, kind of stuck with retail arbitrage right now. Maybe you want to grow into creating a little bit more of a business out of selling on Amazon rather than just doing clearance shopping. So the questions that he's got for me are probably going to be super applicable to the problems you guys are facing in your business. So let's go ahead and jump into that interview and see what we can learn. Maybe just give him a quick intro about who you are and we can kind of jump into the content.
Pretty much hit on my most important and interesting trait. I live in a van. It's like my whole personality at this point. I moved into a van 4.5 months ago just to travel around the country. In order to make that happen, we do YouTube stuff as well as selling on Amazon from the van. But all of that has been going into stores, and having to go into stores is kind of nice because sometimes I'm sleeping at Walmart's like probably 40% of the time. But other than that, it kind of takes away from traveling the country and seeing a bunch of nature. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make more money in my Amazon business while spending way less time in stores.
That makes total sense. I've talked about this before. Retail arbitrage is great. It's a great way to start, but your margins are probably usually a little bit higher than online, but you'll come to a point where, you know, you want a little bit of freedom, especially if you're trying to grow a business, like into something really big. Doing retail is going to be really difficult, but especially just for creating freedom.
In thinking about how to ask these questions, I kind of sat down and was like, what is the same about retail arbitrage and what is different from my understanding? For all like Amazon arbitrage business models, you got to like find products, figure out how many of the products to buy, and then prepping stuff, which is hard in a van. I've done it and I don't want to do it anymore. Shipping stuff to Amazon and then repricing. And then I think the biggest difference is finding replenishable products. RA can be possible to do that, but you're so limited to the inventory that the stores have in stock, and everywhere's different. And they have to get restocked before you can get restocked. So from what you know about retail arbitrage, what in that is like super different? Because it sounds pretty similar to me, like finding the products and figuring out how to get to Amazon. But I imagine that there's a lot of nuances that I'm totally missing out on already.
You already know the basics of it, which is awesome. As far as the sourcing side of it, it's now just more of a, you know, sitting in front of the computer. It is more boring, like straight up online arbitrage is more boring. But once you actually receive the product, it's more or less the exact same through the end of the process until you sell it. And then, like you mentioned, replenishables is awesome with online arbitrage. And the key to a really good replenishable is being able to buy it at retail price. Personally, I've had a lot of success with that at Walmart. I've seen you talk about some replenishables in your videos that you also get from Walmart, some fishing stuff, which is cool. I've never even messed with fishing stuff. There's just ways.
Dude, if you get into there, I'm out. So stay out.
That's what I love about Amazon. There's so many different niches to explore there. It's just the initial learning curve. The hardest part is going to be getting over the learning curve of sourcing.
On a scale of 1 to the worst person in the world, where do you rate me? Because I don't have Keepa yet.
Oh no. Okay. Well, it's kind of excusable as an RA seller, but you will not survive in OA without Keepa.
That's fair. So what do I need to do to get started with online arbitrage for like as cheap or as close to free as possible, like software wise, and like we can go into some of like the basic sourcing stuff too.
First step, you got to have Keepa. The second tool that I think is super important for doing OA is called SellerAmp. It's got a ton of information that's going to help you source, and it's like $18 a month, super affordable.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got Be Cool and Inventory Lab already as well. Yeah. So those tools are going to transition very nicely. So Keepa, SellerAmp, those are going to take you pretty far as far as being able to find some items. Later down the road, you can get fancier with new software, but between the two of that's only going to run you like $40 a month.
It's not bad. Do you think that there is a place where, like, since I haven't selling on Amazon, I should start with some of the more advanced things, or just kind of stick to this? I think you call it reverse sourcing, and then go on to like a tactical arbitrage. I watched like a decent amount of your videos, and I think I understand them all, but I don't do any of it, so I don't practically understand anything.
Right. You can look at Amazon two different ways. You can look at Amazon as I'm going to build an empire, or you can look at Amazon as I'm going to make eventually I'm going to make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, and I'm happy with that. If you're in the camp, or you just you want to make a couple $1,000 a month, those tools will pretty much last you forever. But if you're to the point where you need to spend like a ton of money investing in tools like tactical arbitrage, leads lists, like those are going to help you get there. They might make it a little bit faster for you to sell on the smaller scale, but it's absolutely not necessary on that scale, which is really nice.
Actually, that leads into another question. We'll lead into that other question, which was how big can you grow without like outsourcing anything? Just doing it all kind of yourself. How big are you able to grow that? Because I know that there's a lot of people who, like me, either want to do Amazon like kind of part-time and make a good amount of money doing it, but I don't want to have the responsibility of managing other people because I don't even know when I'm going to have internet access.
That depends largely on your business model. You've been doing retail arbitrage. It would take significantly more time to make a comparable amount of money than online arbitrage. And then the same can be said between online arbitrage and wholesale. I have friends who they have a couple people who help them prep products, but as far as like the buying and the sourcing side, it's just him, and he did over 6 million last year. So like sky's the limit. He's probably crazy, but but yeah.
Wild.
So especially within like online arbitrage, I personally didn't really need any help as far as like sourcing and stuff like that. I had outsourced prep. I would recommend outsourcing prep to pretty much anyone.
Yeah.
But as far as like outsourcing the more like technical sides of the business, I didn't need to do that until I was spending about $20,000 to $30,000 a month on just inventory.
Wow. And spending that amount of inventory, what are you normally expecting in terms of a return on that?
That's definitely the price you pay for that scalability. Generally, I'm looking for products that make me 35% ROIs. For simple numbers in your head. Just multiply what you spent on inventory by 1/3, and that's roughly what you're going to make. That's fairly conservative estimate. I know a lot of people who run a lot higher than that, but spend a lot more time in their business. Something I'm sure you can relate to is I don't want to spend all my time working. So I kind of make that trade-off for, I'm willing to trade a couple margin points to work a fourth of the hours that I could be working if I wanted to squeeze out extra profit on Amazon. Retail arbitrage, you're going to have the highest margins. OA is going to be a little lower. And then if you go to like something like wholesale, it's going to be even lower. Like most people there operate somewhere like 15, 20, 25% ROI.
Wow. And so I think to take that question a little bit deeper, because you're spending so much money, you've explained this in videos, I've explained this in videos on my channel on the RA side, but like the more money that you have available to spend, the better it is to just spend it at a lower return on investment. If you have $1,000, try to get 200% ROI on it. If you have $10,000, you're probably going to average around 60 to 70% RA. Like if I'm only wanting to spend say $2,000 or $3,000, that's all I have available, what kind of return on investment should I look for?
So, I mean, pretty realistically with that budget, you should probably shoot for 50 to 60% ROI plus. You will find a ton of inventory closer to 35 or 40. But if you really want to stretch those dollars, shoot for 50 to 60%. Again, it goes back to how much time you want to spend finding those items.
And are all these items that we're talking about, are they all replenishables, or are these a lot of like coupon deals as well?
A lot of people will be like, I only want to sell replenishables doing OA. And personally, like I think you kind of just naturally come into replenishables. You can kind of look at Keepa charts and specifically target ones that are stable, but you'll just kind of naturally come across items where it's like, oh, this is a good deal, I'm going to buy it. And then, you're almost out of stock. It's like, oh, I can buy it again at the same price. It's still selling for the same price. Let's go ahead and replenish that. And then even within some items that you buy with coupons, there's a lot of sites that will run the same deals, every week or every other week. You're essentially able to treat it as a replenishable, even though it's on a coupon. And those can be really, really nice.
So I think that like a basic question that I haven't asked, because I've seen it in your videos before, and I think that I understand it. Here, how about this? How about I walk you through how to reverse source an item and you tell me what I do wrong. This is not going to be great because I don't have the full Keepa, but looking up great value first. I actually saw you use this product in a video like yesterday or a couple of days ago, but if I just clicked on one of these, one of the things that I'm worried about is like packs. You have to buy 10 of these things and you might have like a limit on Walmart. But if we look at this pack, I mean, this probably isn't making someone a lot of money because you're not going to pick these up for $1 each, but just like going based off of how I would do it. First, I would look at the Keepa chart and you see the really basic one that just has the price chart. And so I could see that no matter what, I can probably sell it for around $32, but you go up into the sellers, pick a seller. And so this one has 32 ratings. So they're not like massive seller, but they probably are buying this from Walmart. And then you'll go into their storefront here. Oh my gosh, a lot of Funko Pop stuff. Yeah, a bunch of toys. Oh yeah, you can actually search on their storefront. So if I search the great value products, how do you determine from this page what is actually worth going to like look for at a cheaper price? Because just knowing like RA and stuff, I see this as a 10-pack selling for $35. I know that's probably going to weigh a lot. So they're probably like only getting back $15 after Amazon fees or something like that. I'm not going to be able to find that for 50 cents each. How do I know what's a good product, like just from this screen?
Yeah, I mean, you're already thinking about it in the right way. Like the real speed comes in when you're able to just look at an item and be like, probably not worth looking up. This one probably is worth looking up. Yeah. Like I don't think any of those are really worth looking up. That 10-pack is $45. Then you're like, okay, there might be some arbitrage opportunity there. Yeah. But a lot of like reverse sourcing especially will just be trained over time.
Gotcha. And is that the best way that I should get started doing online arbitrage, reverse sourcing, and taking the time to like just walk through people's pages?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to start. That's personally when I source, that's where I find most of my like home run products. Softwares are going to be missing the best products that people are selling. Whereas if you're digging into the weeds, actually starting from a product that you're already selling profitably is a much better place to start than great value. That's just what I show off for true beginners. So start from a product that you already sell. That's a much better place to start because the sellers on those listings are just going to be a higher quality seller. They're actually actually going to be making money,
Yeah.
unlike the person selling for 35 bucks. So those can be great opportunities to look through those storefronts, and you just kind of develop an eye over time for what's worth looking up and also what storefronts are worth continuing to scroll through. Some sellers are going to be bad, like they just don't make money. So
Yeah.
it's important to be able to identify both of those.
So what I'm going to do, like obviously after this call, is go and take an hour to try to source myself using everything that we talked about. And I definitely have some other questions, but the first things that I should do are download Keepa, download SellerAmp. And so once I have those installed, are there things on that page that I wasn't seeing that I would be able to see through one of those softwares that could help me to analyze the deals?
Yeah. So what we can do now is I can kind of show you how the way you did it would compare to having the right amount of tools.
That's a lot more information.
Yeah. So as you can see, there's a ton more information over here. We've also got the Keepa chart with the sales rank. Look at that. Very fancy.
How do you even do that?
Credit cards. So now instead of going on the sidebar here and clicking one of these sellers, we can actually just go ahead and pull SellerAmp up, and we're just going to click on one of the sellers over here. I personally prefer to look at FBA sellers just because they're a similar business model to what we're going to be doing with a little bit of feedback like you talked about. So in this case, I'm not clicking on this guy who's got 3,000 feedback. He's probably going to have some wholesale connections and stuff that might be difficult to reverse source. Whereas this guy's got 10 feedback. He probably doesn't have a ton of items, but they're probably going to be easy to reverse source. So now instead of just looking at a wall of products, it's like, what do I look at? Now I've actually got this right here that's going to kind of estimate what I need to be buying it for. I've got the Keepa charts over here to see how stable those price lines are, how stable that sales rank is. And it's also going to do things like tell us if Amazon is on the listing here. So this is just going to be a much faster way, a much easier to read way to actually dive in and try to find some opportunities. Because, we can scroll past here and say, there's no way I'm buying this for 176. No way I'm buying this for 3. So it's just a lot easier than kind of eyeballing it, guesstimating what the fees would be, because it's all baked in here.
Awesome. When you're looking at a Keepa chart, if you want to share a screen again, on the first Keepa chart, the Alpine sugar-free, oh my gosh, spice apple cider, I love that stuff. First off, didn't know that was what that was. But you're looking at the Keepa chart and you're looking at that new FBA price. When you see that massive dip, does that scare you, or is the rest of it being consistent fine? Like how many of those? And so you're like, it's probably not a good listing to hop on because the price just drops a lot.
Yeah. So in this case, I'm looking at this and it's, it's just this like probably a day max, maybe even 12 hours where it was on sale. It looks like it was probably Amazon that came on or just a really bad seller. If we wanted to know specifically, we could, click through, we can just click the Amazon button. Another feature I like is you can just click Google and it'll automatically search it for you. But we can go ahead and look on the Keepa chart and it looks like it's just some seller who's really bad at Amazon. They've sold it for literally $1 and it lasted like a couple hours. If this was Amazon, it'd be maybe I would think about it a little bit more. But since it's just a bad seller, like I'm not worried about that at all.
The next big question, which kind of goes in line with having a Keepa chart, is how do you know how many of something to buy? And do you do test buys first when you're doing your online arbitrage stuff, or do you just kind of like try to buy as much as you can, hoping that you can get the buy box? Yeah,
so you're definitely going to want to run test buys. With online arbitrage, you're going to have the flexibility to buy as many units as you want. So I'd recommend doing at least 18 units. You may or may not have noticed that the cutoff point where Amazon ships all the inventory to one fulfillment center, you no longer get split shipments. So ordering 18 units is going to help you. And generally, an item's probably not really worth your time unless you're able to sell that many, or at least close to that many every month. Unless, maybe it's a super expensive product, could be an exception to that. But especially for your replenishable type products, it's not really replenishable if it's selling 5 times a month, right? As far as kind of guesstimating how much I need to test buy, I'm always going to buy at least 18, but then I'm also going to be looking at that sales estimator on SellerAmp. Maybe if it sells 1,000 times a month, I might test by 100. If it says it sells, 100 times, I'll probably just test by 18. I just use those sales estimations as kind of a rough guide for how big my test buy is going to be. And then you've got real data for when you do want to go ahead and replenish that item.
And after your test buy is over, so you've sold out those 18 and say it sells 100 a month, how much of the buy box do you assume that you're going to be able to get? Will you buy 100 or will you continue to buy at a prorated percentage?
Let's say I sold, that 18 in a week. I'll just buy, I'll go out and buy, I guess 80 is what that would work out to. And then I'll see if I can sell 80 in a month. And then maybe I sell out a week early. And then I'm going to go ahead and increase whatever that math works out to be. But getting that real data from that test buy is going to really help you be able to figure out exactly how much you can buy.
Gotcha. Selling 18 units as a test sounds like dumb to me. Just like coming from an RA perspective. Because buying 18 units is like, I'm buying 2 stores out, it's kind of wild. When you're sourcing as well, what is kind of the max sales rank that you're looking for as like a percentage of the category? Or like, do you really just look at like the average amount of sales that SellerAmp says that you're expected to do? Yeah,
most of the time I'm just eyeballing the sales, the Keepa chart to make sure that the volume is actually there. If I'm setting up like a TA scan or something, that's really the only time I use average rank. I generally don't buy anything that's above 175,000.
Well, that's one of the nice things about RA. Like I'm able to buy stuff that's like 3 to 500,000 sometimes. If I see that it
Yeah.
has like those couple ticks, it's like, oh, I'm at the store. I'm gonna make $10 on this anyways. I might as well throw it in my cart. It's like one of those things, which is kind of cool. But also I have to be in the store, which is annoying. What cashback stuff do you use in your business and recommend that I look at before I'm logging on to buy my product?
Rakuten's an obvious one, as far as there's a lot of companies that do the exact same thing as Rakuten. There's a website called Cashback Monitor that's going to show you all of those cashback providers, and it's going to give you the best rate. Go through those, figure out which ones you trust, which ones maybe look a little suspect. So you're going to be able to run some checkouts through different places. That's going to be a nice way to squeeze out a couple extra percent in cashback. If you really want to get into the credit card churning game, doing Amazon's an awesome way to do that. At scale, it doesn't really make sense for that to be worth the time. But if you're doing part-time, you're just wanting to do a little bit of hustling, churning can be an awesome thing to do. I think I made like 2,000 just on sign-up bonuses last year.
Yeah, I made over some $1,000.
Yeah. So Amazon is great for credit card churning. So between the two of those things, like sometimes 5 to 10% extra cash back, which can make or break an item sometimes.
As you're thinking about prepping it, I know that you probably talked about a bunch of other situations. I feel like I'm kind of in a relatively unique situation, whereas I have a place to prep stuff, but I don't have a place to get stuff sent to. Like literally, I have camera equipment that I just bought that's getting sent to an Amazon hub locker here in San Antonio that I don't even know where it is yet. And so that's the only way I can get stuff. So I really need to work with a prep center. Like, do you have any tips on doing that?
There's a couple ways you can look at prep centers. Personally, I prefer prep centers that just can move volume as fast as possible. But if you're really wanting to stretch a dollar, if you want to find a prep center in a sales tax free state, sometimes the sales tax that you would save is actually worth, more than the prep cost. So if I'm buying something for $20, back where I used to live, I was shipping stuff to Arkansas with 10% sales tax, or I could just ship it to Delaware and then pay like $1.25 to get it prepped. I actually saved 75 cents.
Yeah. What's the process like to getting the stuff from like Walmart online to Amazon so I can sell it?
Right. Yeah. They're going to have like a special name that you have to put. So for me, it's my company name and then the name of my prep center. And it's just going to ship to their address. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and throw it on the spreadsheet that we work together on. So I throw the name of the item, I throw the ASIN, the price, all that that stuff. And they're able to input that into my inventory lab account so that I can keep track of all that. All I have to do is put the items that I bought on a spreadsheet and forget about the items, and they'll be at Amazon without ever having to touch them.
That's awesome. I was thinking that I would have to create the batches in inventory lab and do all that stuff. So they have access to some, I'm sure it's different for a lot of them, but some of them will have access to your inventory lab and like be able to print out labeling and everything for you.
You'll give them limited access to your inventory lab and Seller Central account, and then they're actually able to, prep everything, get the labels, and they'll even buy your shipping for you and box it up. They'll just be like, all right, you've got 5 boxes shipping out to Amazon in the morning. It's like, all right, great.
We're going to hop on another call in a couple of days, but I'm going to give myself an hour with everything that we learned. On my channel, we're going to have that kind of like 1 hour sourcing challenge.
Yeah. So I'll see you in a couple of days then and review some of the stuff you found.
Hopefully I have something to bring you. I would be sad if I didn't.
So now that we've had that conversation trying to get him set up and ready to roll with his online arbitrage business, he's going to be breaking down on his channel. He's going to do some live sourcing. He did it for an hour. Check out his video. That's going to be linked down below. Go ahead, subscribe to his channel. Go show him the Fields of Profit family love. I guarantee you're going to get value out of it. And honestly, he's better at making YouTube videos than me, so you're probably going to like the content. So go ahead and check out that video down below.